I'll say good day to you this day of your time. Today's transmission is a break from the steps. We would like to introduce a deeper explanation of the concept of what we refer to as soul cycle, the cycle of the soul. So your title is Soul Cycle. The idea being that in looking at the diagram that we have provided, you start as a soul. Imagine a sphere of light, choosing to become physical, or in other words, to have a physical experience, as we have outlined, is the product of the soul choosing specific paths, specific experiences, so the soul can grow, specific ideas, specific challenges. And this is done by creating certain patterns of energy within the soul. And these patterns of energy will allow part of the soul to render down bit by bit, collapsing down into the center of the soul, as you see in the diagram. These vibrations and these specific frequencies, these specific vibrations, as they collapse down into the center, as they are focused into the center of the soul, first and foremost, create the idea of the planning stage, the blueprint stage, the template stage, where you lay out, vibrationally speaking, all of the challenges, all of the themes that you are choosing to explore specifically for the soul's growth in what you refer to as this incarnation. So this is where you arrange and order, from conversations with your guides, with soul family, so on and so forth, the beginning of condensing down into a kind of pattern, that which represents the blueprint of the physical experience that you are choosing to have. It orders the idea of what the personality will be like, how you will approach things, and the way in which you will allow yourself to experience challenges so that you can transform them and overcome them. And then as the vibrations continue to condense a part of the soul, remember, the whole soul still stays there. That has not shrunk, but the condensation has happened within the soul, so that a part of the soul, some of the material, so to speak, of the soul, within the soul is being condensed down by these vibrations, by these frequencies that represent the soul's path in physical experience, reality. And so as it continues to condense, now you're talking about arriving at the level where the soul is about to be born physically through the physical processes that you experience in space and time, physical birth. And in that condensation, the soul develops the connection again, remains and retains the connection with the higher mind, which is what the soul is. But now you have a reference to the idea of becoming a physical focused being, but maintaining the connection to the soul, which you are now starting to refer to as the higher mind, the non-physical mind, that remains in spirit, so to speak, or remains its natural spirit self, because even the physical body is still within spirit, because it's within the soul. It's just an arrangement of frequencies that allows you to experience the idea of physicality in a different way than you typically experience yourself as a spirit, as a soul. But the idea is that the body is still part of the spirit, part of the soul. It's just a different arrangement of it, a different focus within it. And now you've arrived where you have the physical birth and being a young child, which is still very strongly connected in awareness to the soul, and can, in a sense, kind of expand back out and condense again and expand back out in a way that you would recognize from the space-time perspective as the opportunity for the young child to still go back to spirit, to not necessarily remain as a physical focused being. So for about 7 years on average, a young child still has the ability to be aware of its connection to all that is, its connection to higher mind and soul, to communicate freely, to remember things like other incarnations, so on and so forth, other connections to extraterrestrial forms, so on and so forth, but to also start organizing over those 7 years, on average, can be 9 years, can be less, but on average about 7 years, start organizing in a way that it starts absorbing ideas telepathically from its parents, its society, its schooling, its friends, to lay the foundation, to overlay the challenges, the belief systems, to feed the personality with the belief systems and arrange them that will be representative of the challenges that that soul chose to face. So now this is where they start becoming crystallized into a physical personality based on the belief systems that are necessary in order to experience the challenges that the soul chose to experience in order to discover new aspects, new perspectives of itself, and to grow by transforming these challenges and overcoming these challenges to discover a new aspect of the self. And then, in the final completion of the solidification, the crystallization of that physical persona within the center of the soul, when all the vibrations have, in a sense, finished their task of creating that physical personality within the center of the soul, now you have the older child or the adult that is fully ensconced within the idea of the physical reality it has chosen to experience, the culture it has chosen to experience, the belief systems, the themes it has chosen to experience, and how the personality expresses itself, and how it goes about responding, reacting through the belief systems to whatever it is that will give it the best opportunity to face these challenges and to transform them in a way that will allow the soul to grow. Then the cycle, in a sense, is reversed. As the soul and the physical personality learns more and more, as it chooses to transform challenges in a variety of different ways, the consciousness begins to expand again. And so the physical crystallized idea of the personality that is representative of the physical being starts to soften, starts to expand back out again, and becomes more aware, becomes more connected, aware of its connections to higher mind and other dimensions and spirit and ETs and all sorts of things. And this is the transition that you experience from the very dense third density physical experience to the less dense fourth density physical experience, which is where many of you are now transitioning into. You're becoming a fourth density human. That means your consciousness is a little bit more relaxed, more expanded, going back out toward the idea of what you are as a soul, allowing more of the vibrational connections that created your physical personality to be used as conduits of communication to the soul, to the higher mind, so that you can inform yourself, you can be a better antenna and a receiver for messages from your guides and soul family and angelic realms and extraterrestrials and extra-dimensionals and parallel realities and so on and so forth. Now you're using those vibrations that the soul used to create the physical personality as conduits of communication. So now these vibrations serve a different function. Whereas initially they were used to collapse a part of the soul into a physical persona, now with the expansion of your consciousness back outward a little bit, you are now able to use those same vibrational frequencies as conduits of communication. And then the next step up, you can see, is more the idea of a representation of an out-of-body experience, an astral form, which you experience when you are dreaming, when the body is asleep, where you are going on adventures and having conversations and having other experiences that the physical personality may remember as a dream. But for the moment, you are a little bit more expanded, And when you wake up in the morning, you may collapse back down again, but maybe not so far. So again, you are retaining the ability to ponder what that experience was about in terms of what you remember as a dream. And you are able to use those conduits of communication more efficiently because of what you learned by having the astral experience, the out-of-body experience, while your body was asleep, when you were dreaming. And so, the idea is that then the astral form, being closer to spirit, between, it is not on this chart, but between the fourth density level expansion diagram and between the astral diagram is where my civilization is. As we say, we are quasi-physical, having the traits of both physical reality and spirit, so that we are actually experiencing the way you would experience reality as an astral being while we are still physical. So halfway in between that second and third stage on the diagram on the right is where my civilization exists, where we are evolving more toward being permanently astral, permanently spirit, but still retain physical properties in many different ways for a variety of reasons. But then as you start practicing more of becoming more expanded as a consciousness, spending more time in the astral realm, making different kinds of connections, learning what you needed to learn as lessons from that physical experience, and then arriving toward the end of the timing that you chose for your physical experience, then you go through the idea of the physical death, you're expanding back out fully into spirit, back fully into the idea of the soul form that you are, that sphere of light, that sphere of energy, that is the natural form of your soul. And so you have then completed the cycle, which then you can decide to do again in a different way, going round and round and round, collapsing into the center, expanding back out, collapsing into the center, and expanding back out as you experience what you perceive from your linear space-time perspective to be a series of incarnational experiences that you call past lives and present lives and alternate lives, parallel lives and future lives, and so on and so forth. But it's all happening within the soul as you collapse down, expand back out, collapse down, expand back out, and experience the idea of space-time and then timelessness, and space-time and then timelessness. We will talk about the degree of time in another transmission, because there is a difference between the way you experience the concept of time in physical reality, the way you experience the concept of time as a soul, and the way that the Oversoul experiences the concept of time. And we will discuss this at another time. But for now, you can see in this chart the idea of the soul cycle, the cycle of the soul, as it creates experiences within itself and then goes back to its full self and then condenses down for a different experience and goes back. So it's kind of like breathing, in and out, in and out, the expansion and collapse and focus of consciousness, and the expansion back into the idea of the full awareness of the soul. Now, this idea still all happens simultaneously, even though we are describing it from a linear perspective, as if these condensations happen one after another. That's the linear perspective. But again, we will discuss at another time the perspective of the Oversoul, where all of these collapses down to different personalities and all the expansions back up to the soul level all happen simultaneously from the Oversoul's point of view. So, we would like to have then presented this to you so you can ponder this cycle, ponder this chart, and understand the idea of what is happening, so that you realize that the truth is your body does not have a soul. Your soul has a body. You don't have a soul, you are a soul. And it is within yourself as a soul that everything you call the physical reality experience happens, until you decide to expand back out and experience yourself once again as the full soul that you are, always have been, and forever shall be, because you are eternal and you are infinite, and that is who you are, and that is what you are, as an aspect of all that is. So we thank you for allowing us to share this idea with you this day of your time. We will present this to you again in this session as a form of meditation so that you can truly lock this idea in and feel the vibrations of this idea and understand how to incorporate this concept within your daily life. So we will do that in our meditation in this transmission. But for now, we thank you for allowing us to share this with you, and in return for the gift you are giving us of experiencing all of you, I ask, in what way may we continue to be of service to you? Please begin with your dialogues and your questions if you wish.
Hello, Tadeo.
Nania.
We have so many wonderful questions from our viewers today.
All right.
The first one is, you talk about how similar to when we wake up from a dream while we're asleep in physical reality, it is that when we die, we wake up from the physical back into who we are as a soul. From your perspective, does this process continue beyond that once we are awake as a soul, or are we totally awake? Do we wake up at some point from being a soul back to being an oversoul, or from an oversoul, and so on? How does it all work?
When you are a soul, you are totally awake as a soul. You can connect to the oversoul. You can start to experience points of view from the oversoul. The idea is not so much that you wake up as the oversoul, for both will exist simultaneously in the realm of spirit, in the realm of non-physical reality. But you can have experiences as if you are seeing from the oversoul perspective. You can have experiences as if you are seeing from higher perspectives, oversouls of oversouls, and even from the perspective of all that is. But it's not the same as waking up because you haven't forgotten who you are. Exactly in the sense of the connection between soul, oversoul, oversouls of oversouls, and all that is. On that level, things start to exist more concretely in a simultaneous way, and you can have experiences of having the point of view and perspective of those other levels, but it's not the same as waking up to realize you are that.
Okay, and what happens to the soul when we physically die?
What do you mean? You become the soul. You are the soul. You wake up as the soul. Your body idea, your experience of physical reality remains within you as the soul. Remember, your body doesn't have a soul. Your soul has a body. So to ask what happens to the soul when we die is a question coming from the linear physical perspective, as if your body is, in a sense, more real than the soul. You are a soul, and when you die, in a sense, you absorb the experience you had within the soul of the physical being that you created within the soul. Again, similar to the idea of as you grow as an adult, you absorb the experience you had as a child. But you are now an adult. Yet you can call upon the experiences you've had as a child. So as a soul, you can call upon the experiences you had from the physical perspective, but all that happened within the soul.
Okay, and if we are all living past and future lives in the present moment, then why is it that when babies are born, they need to relearn how to be human? They need to relearn the simplest things like how to talk, count, and interact with people. It is like they are discovering the world for the first time, but it's not the first time because we have many lives before and after.
But it is the first time for that personality. Your sentence is mixing the idea of the physical persona and the soul's experience when you say we. So the idea is you are creating a new physical persona,
that is injecting itself into the experience of physical reality and choosing to forget who it is so it can rediscover who it is from a new point of view. So it is the first time for that personality, and there has to be that first time experience for that personality to absorb all of the belief systems that are representative of the challenges that the soul chose to face as that unique new personality from a linear perspective. So that's why you have to forget who you are as a soul, even though you may be able to access all sorts of incarnational experiences that coexist simultaneously from the soul perspective. From the physical perspective, this is you uniquely for the first time. And therefore you have to learn things in the way that it is relevant for that personality to learn how to talk and walk and reconnect to things in a way, or connect to things in a way for the first time, to satisfy what that physical personality's journey is all about, which is going to be completely different from any other personality's journey. So it has to build up from scratch.
And how can a person tell if it's their last lifetime on Earth?
You will make that decision when you are in spirit. You cannot necessarily know that decision now. You may feel that there is a good chance you might choose that when you are back in spirit, back as the soul. And therefore, as the soul, you may say, yes, that was it. And now I'm going to move on. But you will have discussions with your spirit guides and all sorts of other beings when you are in spirit. And really, you will not completely form that decision until you are in spirit. You don't know right now, from the physical perspective, what else the soul itself may choose to experience. So you have many choices, and yes, you don't have to reincarnate, so to speak, on Earth. You can choose other kinds of experiences. But again, you will make that decision when you are in spirit.
And does each oversoul have a higher mind similar to our individual higher mind? And is the higher mind of all oversouls God?
In a sense, yes. The higher mind of anything and everything is what you call God. Although, again, it's infinite and eternal. There is no end. And even the idea of all that is can have a higher mind of a multitude of all that is.
And is our soul our higher mind?
Yes, same thing. The
And do
soul
animals?
is the higher mind because that is the portion that is still experiencing itself as spirit, as a soul. So that becomes the higher mind, the guide for the physical personality the soul has created within the center of its being.
And do animals have higher minds?
Yes, because animals have souls, and the soul is the higher mind.
How is an animal soul different from a human soul?
It's different in purpose, it's different in vibrational frequency, it's different in intention, it's different in focus. The energy is the same, the essence is the same, but the vibrational patterns that determine what it is are different. It's like saying electromagnetic energy, light, is light, whether it's visible light, invisible light, red, green, yellow, blue, whatever. It's all made of the same stuff, so to speak, but the different frequencies determine that it appears and presents itself as different in terms of its effect. So animal souls, human souls, all souls are in a sense made of the same stuff, the same energy, the same consciousness, the same extension of source, and all that is. But the frequencies that determine it is an animal as opposed to a human are different. It's a different color, so to speak.
Can animals become humans or vice versa after they die and return to the physical world?
There is a type of progression where, from your perspective, it can appear that an animal consciousness has evolved into expressing itself as something like a human consciousness. It is unlikely that human consciousness become animal consciousness in an incarnational sense. a human consciousness can perceive itself and experience itself as an animal consciousness, but not necessarily physiologically. It is something that happens on the spirit level, in the spirit realm, in a certain way that you can experience while you're physical, but it's not like you're actually incarnating as an animal physically.